Hey Sainers, welcome back to the Saints TV YouTube channel. It had to happen at some point, and that some point is now. It's time to review season 2021 for St Kilda. Let's get into it. Where to begin? Season 2021. Where to begin? I'm just picturing how I was feeling after the practice game against North in the pre-season, where we looked incredible and we just blasted them by 90 odd points. And at that point, we didn't really have any injuries. We were just full of expectation. And that can be a dangerous thing when you're a Saints fan. When you are full of expectation and excitement and positivity. That is the worst. The more positivity you have, the more losses we seemingly have. And that was 2021 to a T. It was full of optimism early, but then inconsistency kicked in and injuries kicked in. Tough fixture kicked in all year. And we had to learn. And I've labelled it this a number of times in a number of videos that I've done over the season. And I've labelled it a learning year. And some people may disagree. Some people may agree. But for me, it was a year of learning. And I see it that way because we saw change, at least. You know, the first part of the year was shocking. Absolutely shocking. We had 4 or 5 losses, over 50 points. You know, the Bulldogs lost 111 or whatever it was. You know, you lose count with those losses. You just don't even look at the scoreboard. You just understand that it was embarrassing and you don't want your club to ever go through that again. And that was the first part of the year. Absolutely shocking. Topped by the capitulation against Adelaide before the bye. And that hurt a lot of us. That hit us in the gut. It really did. You know, that was, you know, you couldn't believe it sort of situation. You know, sitting there and watching it and thinking, our season's done. You know, we are shocking at the moment. We don't deserve to be anywhere near the top 8. And that was tough to take. That was absolutely tough to take. But the second half of the year, we saw learning. We saw change. And we brought in youngsters. We saw Max King blossom beautifully into the footballer that we know he's capable of becoming. We saw Jack Steele run around week after week doing exactly what we know Jack Steele is going to do. And his teammates know that he's going to do that. We saw some highlights. We saw some shock wins against Richmond. Brisbane, probably the best. The Brisbane win was unbelievable. And then to beat Sydney the way we did. But then you look at it again and you see losses like the Carlton loss. And you wonder what is going on. And that was our year. There was some really good wins. There was some really bad losses. And not much in between. It was really one or the other, week to week. And that's, you know, that was one of the bad things. And we'll start off with that. The bad was the inconsistency. Week to week, we didn't know what St Kilda was going to turn up. We didn't know what to expect. And to some extent, that's exciting. Because when you're going into games like the Brisbane game, for example, and you're not really full of that much anticipation of anything positive to come from it, there's always that little feeling in your head, or that little voice in your head just saying, but if Saints of 2020 turned up, we're a chance. And guess what? They did turn up. They just didn't turn up for nearly as many games as we wanted them to. For as many games as it took to make finals. They turned up 3 or 4 times max in season 2021, and that wasn't enough. And that leads me to my next bad. And this one was just unlucky, but it's still bad, and it was our injuries. Even before round 1, that pre-season, after that North game, players just fell over left, right, and centre. And we were going into round 1 without our 2 rucks, without our best small defender in Ben Patton, our co-captain in Jaron Geary. And that was just the start. Oh, and Max King getting hit in the head with a golf ball, out of all things. That was the level of bad luck that we had. We had our key pillar in the forward line getting hit in the head with a golf ball. That's just summarized the injury situation we were in. And it didn't get better from that point on. Paddy Ryder was in and out of the team for the year. Marshall was in and out of the team for the year. We lost the Gresh Prince in round 3 against Essendon. Another bad loss that we will never talk about again. You just imagine, what if Jack Steele got injured, and where we would have been, particularly in that first half of the year. What would have happened if he wasn't around to pick us up when we were down? But when you don't have injuries, you don't get your best 22 on the park. And a lot of teams had injuries. That's right. Every team has injuries. It's just part of football. It's part of any sport in the world. But we had that many injuries linked to players that were not only best 22, but best 18. Ben Patton was critical last year. Rowan Marshall, huge. Paddy Ryder, massive. Jade Gresham, one of our best clearance players, and he's one of those players that gives X factor, and we don't have a lot of them at the moment, and he's one of them. And we lost him after round 3, before that game, before half time in that game, really. Co-captain, it was just shambolic. We just couldn't get any consistency. Our backline was undermanned for the majority of the year. Our midfield, with Zach Jones going in and out of the team, was undermanned. Luke Dunstan got a chance in the second half of the year when pre-season he was told, very unlikely you're going to get a game this year unless we desperately need you through injuries. And that's exactly what happened. But that's the situation that we found ourselves in. We had Jack Higgins out of the team for a bit of the year towards the end at critical times. And he was probably our best small forward for the year. So that, in a nutshell, was where we were at. And I feel sorry for the coaches because going into the year, they prepped for a certain style. And maybe this was bad. Maybe this was another bad, that our style was so heavily reliant, at least seemingly earlier on in the year. It was so heavily reliant on our talls. When Paddy and Rowe played, or even just one of them played, we looked half decent. When both of them played, we were almost unbeatable. But when they both didn't play, we were stuffed. We were embarrassing. And I think it just showed the level of confidence that those talls gave the mids, that they could become proactive, they could take the game on, they could run off their man, not play defensive side at the stoppages all the time. And when they weren't there, we did the exact opposite. We went into our shells, we played slow, we chipped it around, and it just didn't work. Saints footy is not slow footy. Saints footy is aggressive footy, it's chaotic footy, it's frenetic football, and that puts the opposition off. It's taxing on the body, it's taxing on your endurance, and I think that earlier on in the year, we seriously struggled to adapt to the games going back to full length 20 minutes until round 12 and 13. Really, after the bye, we got a lot better at handling the full-length games, and we started running games out a bit more. But in the first half of the year, by half-time, by three-quarter time, if we weren't ahead by 10 goals, we were getting done. You just look at the Adelaide game. We were so good in that first half. It was 6 goals up. We were looking like $1 million. I'm sitting back thinking, there's another 4 points. We're probably sneaking to the top 8 now, and we'll go on a run and we'll make finals. But after half-time, we did not fire a shot. And that was like a lot of games this year. The Melbourne game comes to mind, where we looked good early, but then in the second half, it was basically Melbourne's inside 50s constantly, just peppering the goal, and we're basically just bombing it out, and no players are spreading across the ground because they're absolutely stuffed, or they were mentally fatigued and they couldn't be bothered. That voice just told them to give up. So either it was mental fatigue or it was physical fatigue. And I think in parts, it was both at different times in the season. But after the midway point of the year, things improved. And why did they improve? Well, I've got the good here. Jack Steele just kept leading from the front. He kept doing what was expected of him, but at the same time, just giving that light at the end of the tunnel to his teammates that he can get it done. I'm going to lift too. His second half was elite. His first half was good, but even just his second half, look at the Brownlow, look at the best and fairest, look at who gets the most votes in the second half of the year out of any player in the competition. I would be very surprised if anyone tops Jack Steele in the last, say, round 13 to round 23. In those 10 games, in the Brownlow, if anyone tops him, I'm really, really going to be shocked if anyone does, because his form in those games, particularly from round 13 to about round 18, 19, he's getting coaches' vouchers in almost every game. That's how good his form was. And 2020 was an elite year for him. His first All-Australian, his first best and fairest, but he backed it up. And that's, jumping back to the bad, a lot of players had big years in 2020, and in 2021 they couldn't back them up. And Dan Butler was probably the most disappointing for me. He had a great year in 2020. We all probably thought he deserved to be an All-Australian small forward. He didn't get it. In 2021, he was nowhere near that same player. He's still, I think, ranked number 1 for pressure acts and tackles inside 50 for the club, but goal output was just non-existent. I think he only had maybe 3 or 4 games where he kicked multiple goals, if that. And outside of that, there were a lot of games where he was goalless. I think over 6 or 7. So for a player playing as a small forward, and sure, pressuring and tackling is great, but at the end of the day, when we're struggling to score, goals become a premium, and they're very important, and he just didn't deliver. So, and he wasn't the only one. Caulfield in and out of the team, he was elite. Potential All-Australian 40 squad last year, the way he was going as that intercept mark, and his form just wasn't the same. Brad Hill, his early form, struggled big time. We all know that. Heavily publicised. We put him back onto halfback flank with Jack Sinclair, and things changed. But his form, again, up and down. And that was the case. You look at Max King, his early season form. He was clunking them, wasn't kicking straight. Second half of the year, clunking them, kicking straight. So that's why I say this year was a learning year. Because some players, Brad Hill struggled early on. Changed positions. Whether it was his call or the coach's call, it doesn't matter. But the club learned. They put him in a different position. His form improved. Max King's kicking. Struggled early. We learned to teach him. He taught himself. He had coaches. He had Ruffy. There was talk of Matthew Lloyd. All of that helped him learn how to get confidence in himself, to get better, to kick straighter. Those are the things that you can take out of the year. And then you've got the other positive. The youngsters. Tom Highmore, I don't really like putting into that category, but he is 22, 23. It was his first year, and he's come in, and he's our best intercept marker in the back line. Caulfield's form was a disappointment, but to have someone like Tom Highmore come in and do a job the way he did, that's a huge positive. And then you've got the actual youngsters. Jack Bytel got games early and showed a lot. And then he missed a lot of the year, and that pissed a lot of people off. But he came back in round 23, and he had 17. He had 8 tackles, kicked 2 goals. He shows a lot, and I'm really excited for his future. And then you've got Leo Connolly playing, probably 7 or 8 games, maybe more. And he just brought so much enthusiasm, so much energy to the lineup. When we were down, when we were struggling to run, this guy just didn't fear anything. And that's probably because he hasn't played a lot of football. So he's just seeing it as a fun opportunity, not as a job, not anything that has expectations on him. It's just he can get the ball, he sees a bloody gap, and he goes, bang, I'm through that. You're not catching me. I'm doing a few bounces. His first touch in AFL football, I think, was running bounce. And that just shows the level of confidence that he has, and some of these youngsters that we have got. And that's exciting. Ryan Burns, the same. He shows signs of a young Stuv, a young Jack Stephen just running around, just zipping in and out of packs, hitting targets, a great field kick. He's a very good overhead mark for his size, and he's only going to get better. And that, I think we've got to give full credit to the recruitment team for finding players like them that aren't absolute top tier draft picks. They're not top 10s by any means, but they still came in and they still looked like they could fit in straight away. And that to me is a really good sign of depth and hopefully strength to get these sort of players into the starting 22 and hopefully overall improve the team. And the other one, a late bloomer, the guy that came in around round 18, round 19, Cooper Sharman. Just comes in, kicks multiple goals every single week, including a career-high bag of 4 when Max King couldn't get up for the game in round 23 against Fremantle. This guy's going to be very exciting to watch. He can fly for the ball, but better, he's got a football brain, and he can find leading lanes and getting the ball on the end of a kick. And not a lot of our forwards did that. You look at the early part of the year, and this is back to the bad. Bombing, not lowering your eyes, not not encouraging players to go on a lead and to pinpoint them because the forwards couldn't trust the mids. The mids couldn't trust the forwards. And that was another bad. The players just didn't trust each other to get the job done. And that's what was hard to watch early in the year, was that, we'd have players that we thought were going to win the contest in the middle of the ground, and they didn't. And players were proactive, ran ahead of the ball. We turn it over, the ball goes the other way, and we concede. But I think we found a good balance in the second half of the year. We've found a balance of, players going on a lead, but then players going for the long kicks. Players going into the contest, but also players waiting on the outside. So if we didn't win the contest, we could strangle the opposition, tackle them, and hopefully, best case scenario, restart that stoppage and then go again. And I thought that's what we did. We played a much more balanced style of football in the second half. The first half of the year, too attacking. We tried to take the game on too much, and with the new man on the mark rule, that absolutely screwed us. Our kicking wasn't good enough, and that meant high clangers, high turnovers, easy access going the other way, easy goals going the other way. But we slowed it down, we chipped it around a bit more, we played a bit more conservative, and only really went fast when the game was absolutely on our terms. When it wasn't, we were patient, we tried to find the right pass, we had players leading, we had players moving, and that allowed us to just, even when we weren't in the best of form in games, we didn't get blown out of the water. We lost games in the second half of the year, to West Coast, to Port, to Geelong, but the only massive blowout was Carlton. And that's no surprise in the end when you think about it. We saw Carlton as an easy kill. We went into the game confident, overconfident, got complacent, and tried to take the game on at all costs to beat them because we thought, well, Carlton can't defend. We'll just take the game on and beat them by kicking a lot of goals. And in the end, Carlton did the same thing to us. We turned it over more than them. They go the other way, and they kicked easy goals. And that loss was the only loss that really replicated anything from the first half. So when you look at losses in the first half, none of them were really replicated in the second. There was no Bulldogs blowout in the second half of the year. There was no Essendon 75-point loss in the second half of the year. There was no Richmond 86-point loss in the second half of the year. That was a big improvement. And again, it goes back to why I mention it so much. That's why I thought we learnt. We learnt something. We looked at what we did in the first half of the year and we thought, that's not working. We need to change it. We don't have the team to do that. And that's, I think, part of the issue with the year with the coaches was they planned so heavily in the off-season for a certain style that hopefully was going to stack up. But maybe we never got to see it because we didn't get the team on the park that was trained and capable of executing that style. In the end, we had makeshift rucks. We had Paul Hunter come in. We had McKernan come in for 2 or 3 games. James Frawley come in for only a couple of games. Jack Loney played 3 or 4 games early, but then was unsighted for the rest of the year. We didn't know what the best 22 was because 1 week we were good, 1 week we were shit. 2 quarters we were good, the next 2 quarters we were shit. 1 quarter we were good, 3 we were bad. The coaches didn't know what the best balance was. The second half of the year, we found that. Another thing to take from the year, our best was close to the best in the comp. It was very good. It was scintillating. It was high scoring, high pressure. It was fast. It was exciting. You couldn't look away. And when you've got Max King clunking them like he was doing in the second half of the year, we look unstoppable. He looks unstoppable. We are capable of being a top 8 team, top 6 team, top 4 team. But when we're bad, our bad was almost as bad as anyone's. Our average loss margin in the first half of the year was huge. It was about 65 points or something. When we lost, it was a battering. And that is another thing to take from the year was our percentage. 91.54%. I've got it right here. That says everything. That we won 10 games, we lost 12, but when we lost badly. And that's a key takeout. Next year when we lose, we cannot give away percentage. Going into 2022, it's great to be up and about and to want to kick a lot of goals and to be attacking and to win games every week. But there's going to be games where the momentum's not going your way. And we need to learn to slow that down, to play tempo, to understand that, well, guys, the opposition's got us here, but we're not going to give them the ball. We're going to play against that, take the energy out of this game, and then go for it in the next quarter. Play smart. A lot of times this year, we didn't play smart. We just played our way, and it just felt like the coaches didn't adapt. We didn't have a plan B. We didn't have a plan C. We didn't have a plan D. We just had plan A, which was Saints footy, which was frenetic, which was fast, high pressure, high tackle count, and that's it. But hey, if that doesn't work, I guess we keep doing it. And that was the case. We just kept playing the same way. And maybe the players really just listened to the coaches too much and didn't have that sort of game awareness on the field. And that was kind of a thing that annoyed me a lot of this year, was that we were doing things in games that seemed so obvious to the spectator. Like, against Carlton, for instance, we had players going in for the ball at the stoppage, and Carlton clearly had two at the back going for a swoop, easy handball out, and they were gone. And that happened for pretty much the entirety of the game, and a big reason why we lost. And I was thinking, how have the coaches not noticed this? But at the same time, how has any of these midfielders that we've got not seen that and thought, I'm going to go and man up on that guy? Do they really need to wait for the runner to come out to tell them, hey, you need to go on that guy because he's getting us out the back too often? I want our players to be smart enough that even if the coach doesn't say anything, they know, well, this guy's dominating, I'm going to go tag him. Put that, just put that responsibility on ourselves and our players to know what to do at the right time. And for the year, it's two halves. I've talked about it a lot in this video. It's two halves. But when you look at it, there was a lot to take from it. A lot of good to take from it. And I know that it was really frustrating. And as a Saints supporter, you just wanted to make finals. And I guess that was partly why the expectation, or why the disappointment was so strong for the majority of the year. And it was because the level of expectation. And even last year, 2020, we didn't really have that much expectation going into the year. We thought, oh, maybe we can make a bolt for finals. That'd be cool. And we did. And we rode that wave with the team. We were just full of excitement. We didn't know what was happening. But then this year, because of the year we had in 2020, we won a final. We finished 5th overall because of that finals performance. And we only lost to the eventual premier in Richmond by 5 goals. So we thought, well, we've got Jack Higgins. We've got Brad Crouch. They're going to strengthen us. We're going to be good. But we didn't really take into consideration the fact that we weren't going to get our best 22 on the field at all for the year. We didn't for a second get our best 22. When we had Gresham in the team, we didn't have rucks. When we didn't have Gresh, we had rucks. We didn't have King, we had Sharman. It just, when we gained 1, we lost 2. When we gained 2, we lost 3. It was just bad luck all round. And hopefully going into this year, we really do get a good run with injuries. I guess a positive from this is we finished 10 wins, 12 losses. We're only a game and percentage out of the 8. And we lost games to Adelaide and we lost games to Carlton that we should have won. That would have been enough to sneak into the top 8 and make finals. So to think that despite losing over 5 or 6 games by a lot of goals, by coughing up leads, by missing probably 50% of our best 22 for the majority of the year, to think that we're only a game and a half, a game and percentage really, out of the 8 is unbelievable. Because if we get a clear run at injuries next year, if we get an easier fixture, if we get more confidence, and we just kind of tone down the inconsistencies, not only week to week, but within games, we could be a very good team next year. Max King will get better. Cooper Sharman will get better. Jack Seal will do what he needs to do. Zach Jones, if he stays fit, will give us that speed and grunt in the middle. Gresham will give us X factor. Highmore, Caulfield, Wilkie, Dougal-Howard will do what they do every week. Jack Sinclair will continue that form that really doesn't get enough credit in the competition, but he is becoming a very, very good player and one of our most important players with the level of disposal efficiency that he offers. Brad Hill could go back to the wing and be the player that we wanted him to be when we first got him to the club. Jack Higgins, Dan Butler's form could improve. We could get players in. There are rumours of some good players coming to the club. We could strengthen not only internally but externally. Get the academy kids in. There is a lot to look forward to. And I know this is a 2021 review video, but I also wanted to generate some excitement from this because I know that a lot of people are watching finals and thinking, bloody hell, Saints should be there. And I'm one of them, absolutely. But we can look at this year and take a lot out of it and be excited for the future. And that's what I am right now. I'm excited. The more I think about it, the more I'm excited for it. I thought, at the same time, let's go through just the key stats from the year. I've got some high rankings, so the things that we did well as a club for the season, but then also the low rankings and individual stats. So we'll end with that. So in terms of high rankings, what the club did well this year, what St Kilda did well in 2021, it's no surprise because this is really what our game plan is built on. And some people might say it's a bit of a downside, is we ranked 5th in tackles per game. So that's pretty good. We averaged over, I think, 65 tackles a game, which is really good. We had some massive pressure games like the Hawthorn game, the West Coast second half in particular, the Brisbane game, the Sydney game. Pretty much all of our wins, we out-tackled the opposition and our pressure rating was through the roof. And I think we need to find other ways to win next year. We can't just rely on pressure. We can't just rely on tackles. We need to be able to win games even when we have 40 tackles a game. I don't want tackles to be really the be-all and end-all in our game plan because that just leaves too much margin for error and we need to learn to win in other ways. The other high ranking was we ranked 5th in hitouts per game. It's pretty surprising that we ranked 5th for the year considering we really didn't get both of them on the park for a lot of the year. But that should only improve next year if we can get them both on the park and maybe get Max Heath a few games, even draft, trade in someone like a Hayden McLean from Sydney. Those were our top ranks. We didn't really have anything after that. In terms of our low rankings and things we need to improve, we ranked 13th for handballs per game, so we bombed it. We obviously do like to use the corridor, and that means kicking. Whether that, we kicked a lot, but also our clanger count was high. That's, something we need to take into account is that if we're going to kick, we need to hit our bloody targets. We ranked 13th for points per game. Not good enough. We didn't kick enough scores. We didn't average, I think we averaged only about 70 points per game, if that, which is not good enough to make the top 8 and to do any damage in the top 8. We ranked 16th for goal assists per game, 12th for clearances per game, which is not great considering you've got Jack Steele, one of the top clearance players in the competition. He needs some more support there. And at the same time, we're getting, we're top 5 for hitouts per game, but only 12th for clearances. So the hitouts aren't really doing the job. We ranked 14th for rebound 50s per game. That just means that when the ball goes into the defensive half, the opponent capitalizes. We rarely intercept it and we rarely rebound. We need to get better at that. We cannot have the opposition going inside 50 20 times in a quarter and converting it over 50%. That unless they're just kicking freakish goals and it's unstoppable, that's fine. But if it's because we're not manning up or we're just giving them easy outlets, that's what we need to improve on. We ranked 13th in least opponent handballs per game, and the rest is kind of just nothing stats. In terms of overall stats for the club, total kicks, number 1 was Jack Steele. Total handballs, number 1 was Jack Steele. Total disposals, you guessed it, you're a smart one, Jack Steele again. Total marks, Max King. Total goals, total marks, Tim Membry. Total goals, Max King, which is really exciting, kicking 38 goals. So Max King almost kicking 40 goals for the year, despite starting slow and despite being fairly inaccurate in the first 10 games. So a lot of those 38 goals came in the second half of the year. So if he carries that through into 2022 and is clunking and kicking as straight as he was in the last 10 games of the year, he's going to easily surpass that next year and probably be our top goal kicker again. Total hitouts, Paddy Ryder, number 1. Total goal assists, Tim Membry. Total clearances, Jack Steele. Total clangers, Jack Steele, but that's probably because he's in and under and trying to get the ball out and he's in a high pressure situation for a lot of those disposals. And then total rebound 50s, no surprise, Dougal Howard. And Dukes was another positive for the year, just the key pillar in defense that tried to hold us up. And there were some games this year where it was just hard to watch because the opposition were just bombing it inside 50 and dominating. But Dukes could hold his head high because he just put his heart on his sleeve and threw his body in every contest and gave our team every chance of winning games because of his selflessness and his willingness to help his teammates and to negate his opponents. So I think that kind of sums up my feelings for the year, guys. I guess most people ask what I thought of the year, and I'll be honest, I'm upset. I'm upset. We should have made finals. We had a good enough team, despite the injuries, to make finals. And you look at the teams like Essendon making finals and getting done in the first week, or Sydney having a great year and then coughing it up and choking to GWS. And we made it last year and beat the Bulldogs. And you just wonder, if we had made finals this year, what sort of damage could we have done? But At the same time, if we had have had a full best 22 to pick from this year, we wouldn't have seen Ryan Burns. We wouldn't have seen Leo Connolly. We wouldn't have seen Cooper Sharman get in. Maybe not Tom Highmore if Caulfield's form was so good. There was a lot to take from the bad this year, because with bad, there is some good. And I give credit to the team. The second half of the year was far more enjoyable to watch as a Saints fan than the first half. So that's why I think overall, and I've said it a number of times, and I'll say it again, this year to me was a learning year. We've learnt something. We've learnt that we have youngsters that are capable. We've learnt that Max King is going to be a superstar. We've learnt that Jack Steele is one of the best mids in the competition and the best two-way mid in the comp. We learnt that we still need another tall back to support Dougal Howard. We learnt that our best is very good, but our worst is average. There is a lot that we can take from season 2021, and that is my take. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys. I just wanted to get on here and give my thoughts of the season. I've also done another video last week, my player rating. So if you're curious to see what I rated every player that put the red, white, and black on in season 2021, what I rated them out of 10, watch that video and give me your ratings, comments, and let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you're feeling after 2021, because I know, right after the final siren against Fremantle in round 23, your feeling then could very well be very different to how you're feeling right now upon reflection. And I think that's what this period is for me, is I reflect and I think about the bad and how we can improve, but at the same time, acknowledge the good, because there was a bit of good there, and I think a lot of that good is going to be something that can take us from a top 8, just not only just a top 8 team, but to becoming a very good team. And I really do believe that if we can get our best team on the park next year, we will be a force to be reckoned with. So I'll leave it on that positive note. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd absolutely love if you just hit subscribe. I think we're nearly on 2,100, so I appreciate every subscriber so far. But obviously, if people watch and they love my content and you want to see more of it, it's really important to subscribe, and you'll get notifications on every other video coming out. Hopefully the key takeout from this video is that yes, the season wasn't what we wanted it to be, but it could be the season that we needed to become what we really think we can become. So I'll leave it on that note, guys. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, and go ye mighty Sainers. See you guys.